Welcome back to the County Pulse podcast. And with me, as always, is Jordan Amsakane from Prep Red Zone, Illinois. And we're going to get started today with the game of the week, which is going to be Peotone versus Wilmington, right, Jordan?
Yeah.
Okay, so what can you tell me about the matchup? Where are they playing at? What time they're playing? All that pertinent information, and then kind of tell me, you know, let us know what's happening with the game on each side and kind of what you see as the outcome.
Yeah. So the game is being played tonight at Peotone at 6 p.m. And what's the biggest kind of key to look into for this game is going to be the injuries with Peotone, because last week against Lisle they did have a few injuries towards the end of the game. So coming into this game, some of those players are still question marks, or might even be able to suit up and play, but they're playing with injuries. So keeping an eye on that is going to be kind of the focal point for this matchup, because both teams play a very physical run game. They both run the double wing offense, so they're gonna they're gonna pound the ball on the ground. They're gonna try and run it up the middle, run it down the other defense throat. So it's gonna be a very physical dogfight type of game tonight. For Wilmington, they came off of this very great win against Coal City last week. They had Cody Franzen and Jacob Friddle, who are their main two ball carriers. They, were showing out, first, maybe second, third quarter, they ended up getting slowed down a little bit. But in the fourth quarter, they're able to come back from 17 points to win the game. So they have the momentum on their side. They're feeling great. They're undefeated still. They're on the top of the Interstate's Central 8 conference right now. Peotone is standing at number 3 position with Coal City at 2. So whoever wins this game basically will end up winning the conference for the season, since this is the last week that they're playing. So it'll be a great matchup. The biggest thing to take away, keep an eye on, is going to be the injuries for Peotone and how those players are able to produce, if they play being injured, or who's going to step up to take over someone's role that's not going to be able to play.
Yeah, and so I think we'll get in here in a minute in some of the recaps and stuff, but I think Peotone's coming off a week of some injuries that caused them during the year, and that seems to be a problem that they've got to fix coming into this game, right?
Yeah. Okay. They ended up losing 24-0 against Lisle last week. So, being able to learn from that loss and being getting beat that bad and trying to see what it is they can improve upon in their offense, on their defense, special teams, everything like that, and bring it into this game, it's going to be great for them, not only for this season, but also heading into this fall season as well.
Good. Yeah, so any particular players on either side of the ball there with Peotone and Wilmington that you think the other side should focus on, and maybe some folks that are watching the game or going to the game should focus on?
Yes. So for running back, Peotone has Ben Balmer. He is the primary ball carrier. He's a senior. He's a hard-nosed runner. He might not be the biggest player on the field, but he plays like he is. He has the heart for the game. He always keeps his feet turning. Can score in a heartbeat, right? He's a really, really great running back for this Peotone football team. They also will be having Ryan Moe will start getting a lot of carries, since Dawson Piper and TJ Chenoweth, their other two running backs, went down with injuries last week and are questionable for this game. So look for Ryan Moe to start getting more carries involved too. On the defensive side for Peotone, they have Tyler Hendricker and Austin Massat. They both are going to be kind of focal points on the defensive line for controlling the line of scrimmage at defensive end positions. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of what they're able to do against the Wilmington offensive line. Now going over to Wilmington, they have Cody Franzen and Jacob Friddle for running back, and they also play linebacker as well. So those are going to be the two primary names for Wilmington, to watch during this game, because both of those players will get about 16 to 18 carries each.
Yeah. So those injuries that you're talking about, you still have them as questionable. Any idea of the status? Were they serious injuries or just a game that was just hard nosed between the two teams?
Yeah, so for TJ Chenoweth, I don't think he's going to be able to play considering he got put onto a stretcher last week. Like he got carted off in a stretcher to the hospital. So, I hope he's doing well. I hope, it wasn't anything super serious. But that's all I know for his injury. And then I know for Dawson Piper, he hurt both his shoulders, so he might be able to play through it. It will just, it'll just be painful for him. But he's a tough kid, so he might end up just playing through it anyway.
Yeah, it's tough, especially with this season being so short. Uh, you got 6 games. Some may have a few. I think some leagues are looking at the ability to have a conference championship. We're not doing that. I think we've got 6, so I think they may be squeezing in a 7th in some conferences. We're not doing that, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. But with the shortened season, those injuries really impact. Instead of being out a game or two, you're out 2 games. That's a significant portion of your season. So it's a tough one, and certainly hope those guys get better soon. I know all these kids that you mentioned are kids that are more than likely going to go on and play at the next level. So depending on where they're at, seniors certainly is a concern. Juniors, also a concern. I think both of those groups have been impacted by the shutdown of football due to COVID. So what do you have on a prediction from Peotone and Wilmington?
Well, okay. Because of the injuries and, just not necessarily knowing who's going to be able to play and like who will step up for them, I had picked Wilmington to win 28-17.
That's got to be a tough pick for you, right?
Oh,
Have to
yeah, trust me.
Peotone Blue Devils, right? So as we go back and look, let's talk a little bit about the Iroquois West Watseka game. You were able to check in on that and watch that, and you had a prediction there as well. But let's first talk a little bit about the game and what you kind of picked out of that and what you've seen, and then let's talk about your prediction.
Yeah. So heading into the game, I knew Watseka was a very good team that can score in a heartbeat. And, it's kind of a lot of people were saying that Iroquois West was kind of a very big underdog, that they weren't going to be able to keep up with them. Like the score might say that they didn't, but the reason why the score was so kind of separate, the big gap, is because Iroquois West ended up shooting themselves in the split in the second half. In the whole entire first half, it was a dogfight. The score was, I believe, 20-14. Watseka was winning 20-14. And Iroquois West was able to drive down the field against Watseka on their final 2 drives of the first half and ended up scoring touchdowns on both of them. With their run game, they have, the Leonard brothers up there. They also had Austin Miller, getting the amount of carries he has. And they also had Tristan Shatch, who he only had 15 carries for 47 yards on the night, but he also had over 300 return yards. So every single time that he would get a kick on kick return, he would get it out to probably about the 40-45 yard line every single time. So the field position for Iroquois West really helped them in the first half, kind of getting them situated to where they were able to score. But then in the second half, it kind of went all towards Watseka. Iroquois West ended up starting off the second half with a fumble, a turnover on downs, and 2 pick sixes to follow that. So, it being a 20-14 game at half ended up going downhill very, very, very fast from, the turnovers. And then after each turnover, Watseka kept scoring. So the game ended up being 47-20, with Watseka winning. But the only reason why it's such a big disparity is only because Iroquois West just shot themselves in the foot with the turnovers and the pick sixes. Realistically, the game probably should have been about maybe 35-28, something like that. But the turnovers again was just the big difference, the big game changer for them, for Watsika to win as big as they did. Now, a big takeaway that I got from the game for Iroquois West, they might be 0-4 right now, but they're an 0-4 team that has the talent, and the determination, and the coaching staff to easily be undefeated. It's just, fixing up these mental mistakes. They're still kind of a young team, with their running back position, their offense, defensive line, things like that. So, moving into the fall, I do think that they'll be able to, at least go 500, with their coaching staff and the talent they have on their team.
Yeah, I think especially in this season with that quick ramp up that we've got from the COVID shutdown, you got such a quick ramp up that I think we're seeing, one, more injuries, as we talked about, I think early on, which we expected, but two, we're also seeing a lot of combinations of these mental mistakes, right? These things where you're just not gelling and working normally like you would. And some teams adjust that. Don't get me wrong. There's teams out there that are undefeated that are doing great. But, there's other teams, you've got to find that right, mojo, right? And you got to be able to put that in and figure out what's going on. And some teams are lacking that. And I think I wouldn't put that, certainly you can look at it from a player's perspective that, look, we need to focus more on that. But I think that's an issue of time well spent together, right? More you spend time together, the better you are. And I think some of these clubs just don't have that. Plus, you get in some of these smaller communities, talking to different folks that are around the smaller communities and stuff. A lot of these kids, because they are small communities, they're more rural communities, they tend to be working a lot. If they're working, getting stuff ready for the farm for summer, they're maybe working with their father or something on construction projects. And so there's not that constant focus of football that maybe there is in other places. And a lot of times, especially during this COVID shutdown, there is the issue of kids. We've seen it at Bradley, kids that, their parents can't work because of COVID. They're out working, trying to, make ends meet. So that's an added stress that adds to the mental errors, the things that aren't just bringing things together. So it's a very unique kind of year. But I'm an Iroquois West fan. I'm Iroquois West because I met the kids and really thought they were great kids. And then I'm also a fan of the coaching staff there. I think they do a really, really good job. Especially, I think they got limited sources. It's Gilman's a small community. They don't have the resources some of these schools you walk into, and we're blessed at Bradley. You walk into the weight room and it looks like a D1, D2 weight room and stuff. And some of the places just don't have that. They don't have the facilities. So I think they're doing the best they can do with what they've got. And I think probably, as you talked about, that youngness of Iroquois West is going to be something that's really going to come to the forefront next year. You got to remember, you've got the Leonard boys, and one's a junior, and Cannon, and he's, I think, 6'8", 6'9", 260. Well, actually, he's Cannon's a sophomore.
Yeah, Clayton's a junior.
Right? And so then next year you've got a senior and a junior, and those are both big boys, plus the other players you talked about, I think will be significant. So, but it sounds to me like Watsika really got things going. They're gelling well, and they're doing good. So, kudos to Watsika and what they do down there with their limited capacity as well, right? They're not, they're not a Bolingbrook or even a Bradley when it comes to the facilities they have, but they do the best they can do. So that's very good. So let's talk a little bit too about the recap of Coal City versus Wilmington. You want to talk a little bit about that game? You mentioned it earlier when we were talking about some games, but let's talk about that game, because that was as this year goes, that was an epic matchup between two undefeated teams, right?
Yeah. So Coal City is a top 4A football team, and Wilmington's a top 3A football team. Historically, they have always been kind of in the top for their division for football. So coming into this matchup, they're both undefeated. They're both kind of similar-ish type of not schemes, but like offensive mantra of we're going to run the ball. And what was very interesting was that when Wilmington got the ball in their first drive, they, just got in their double wing offense, drove down the field, got a touchdown. And it was just kind of like, oh man, is this how, the game's going to go? And then Cole City got the ball. Asa Cooper literally took the very first handoff on the drive, took it about maybe 68, 70 yards for a touchdown. Boom, tied. Next Cole City drive, Asa Cooper gets the ball again. Very first touch, takes it again, 68 yards, touchdown. Then the third time, he gets the ball again. Another 50, 60-something yards, touchdown. And they're up 21-7, just like that. And then, for defense, Cole City did a very good job of stopping their double wing offense by, shooting the gap, stacking the box. But what was interesting, a different, kind of take on stopping the double wing offense is they had their linebackers kind of creep up to the line of scrimmage, like as the quarterback was going through his cadence. So they would blitz right when the ball was snapped. So as the ball was snapped, you would have 8 guys kind of shooting the gaps all at once when there's only 7 guys to block those set gaps. And sometimes you'd have about 2 people in the exact same gap. So you'd have 2 people on the left side A gap, 2 people on the right side A gap, 2 people in both the B gaps, 2 people in both the C gaps, which, if you only have one person to block 2 people, someone's going to sleep through a little bit. So they were able to kind of eliminate Wilmington's run game through the whole entire, second quarter and third quarter. But then the fourth quarter, Wilmington just kept on going at it and going at it and going at it and just sticking with their run game. They were able to, just keep on gaining, 5, 6 yards and then breaking the occasion like 18, 20, 25 yarder to end up, getting them back into this game. And then on the flip side for the fourth quarter, Cole City couldn't really get first downs. They might be able to drive a little bit down the field, but they end up, stalling with a 3-and-out and punt the ball. So, that was pretty much the game. The very deciding factor was at the end. Cole City did have a shot to, win the game. They were actually driving down the field, got all the way down to maybe say the 15-yard line for Wilmington, where Asa Cooper got the handoff, out of the Wildcat formation. But when he went to go take his first 2 steps, he didn't secure the ball all the way, so he ended up fumbling the ball where Wilmington recovered, and that was pretty much the game where Wilmington won 24-21.
Wow. Yeah, that's a heck of a game, and both of those, Cole City I think is known with the one we talked about this I think off air. These schools that produce great wrestlers then also seem to produce great football players, and there's this connection between those 2 sports. With not saying either one's more difficult, but I know wrestling to some extent can be really brutal, but it allows you your leverage and doing stuff. And Cole City's always been that. They've always been a kind of a rough pound and ground kind of team. Wilmington's really shown their, kind of their worth this year. I've heard from different folks talking about Wilmington, what they're doing there, what the coaches are doing there. So it sounds like a great game. Now, going back real quick to the Iroquois West Watseka game, you predicted Watseka to win, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then you also predicted, what did you predict in the Cole City Wilmington game?
I had Cole City winning by 3.
So now you have 2 marks on your record?
Yeah.
So what's your record now?
Should be, I think 7-2.
7-2. Yeah, we're gonna have to keep track. I think the board behind you, I think you can put that up and then each week mark it in saying, oh, this is what we did and this is where I'm at. Right. So far so good, right? And we make predictions. We don't know anything more than the man in the moon. We have some insights and stuff, but at least from my perspective, I make predictions. I don't know if they're going to hold true or not. So mine's usually based off of not stats, because one, we talked about this off the air. Stats are getting a little bit tougher this season to get a hold of. In fact, I watched another podcast, and they were talking about the IHSA not updating their stats. We talked about a team that doesn't share their film with the other team. So if you don't have a camera going with you on the road, they don't share that, which, to be honest with you, I don't understand that. You may have a pride or you may have whatever, but the fact is, at the end of the day, the kids that you're playing against for that school, and I'll keep them nameless at this point, you're harming those other kids the opportunity to be able to get their stats and show those off into their huddles and be able to talk about them. You be able to write about them, right? Us be able to mention them in their stats. So we're hoping that, and I think that school knows, it's a team that we've talked about that's played, knows that, doing the right thing is really all about the kids. So make sure you're sharing your stats. But I know it's difficult this year. I don't know if it's a COVID thing, if it's just something through the season, or if it's become a kind of an everyday, just this is what we're going to do in football. I'm hoping, and I'm sure you're hoping as well, that this is only going to be a period in time in which, it's shortened season. We don't have playoffs. We don't have state championships. So we're not going to do the things that we normally do, rather than saying we're no longer going to keep track of stats, because I think stats are really, really important, and they can be difficult to get. So you're 7-2. I'm going to go into my stuff and talk a little bit about it, and I want you to talk about it if you know anything about it. Last week, I always go to BBCHS. I'm not going to lie. One, it's my show, and it's me and Jordan's show. So if you don't like it, come on and you can talk about your team. I don't care. But BBCHS is my school. It's where me and my wife graduated from just a few years ago, 1984. And I don't know, she's 5 years younger than me, so I'm not even going to put a number on that. And our son goes there. So I always talk about Bradley because I know it. And I want to at least sound like I know I'm talking about one thing while I'm talking to the guru over here, Jordan Amsakane. So we played, BBCHS had their senior night. It's a fun night. The coach typically tries to have a special component to that, either a homecoming game, it's usually special components, or in this case, a senior night with everything being canceled, the dances and stuff like that. Of course, we're out of homecoming season. We're in prom season. But this was the best chance to be able to get him. So he typically wants black jerseys and then black pants. So it's black on black, which is a nice look. I have my thoughts on whether we should be buying black jerseys or doing something else, but I'm just a parent. So, my opinion doesn't really matter that much, but they look good. And, I don't mind them looking good and looking great. Especially if they're playing great. So Bradley ended up winning 59-0 against Stagg. We played very well. I mean, I think the issue of our quarterback kind of controversies got resolved. They start gelling, behind Cage Williams, who's the quarterback there. You can see, at least from our perspective, my perspective, you can see a different cohesiveness with the junior. But don't get me wrong, Neil May, he came in, I believe he played into a wide receiver kind of slot player, did exceptionally well at that position. And sometimes it's a matter of, the coach finding where that proper fit is. He's an athletic kid. And people kind of understanding that, well, you may get put here, you may get put there. And I think that's an important component through high school ball is as you're going through stuff, like Neil's going through, being a sophomore, trying to figure out as a quarterback or whatever, you should take those adjustments and you should enjoy those adjustments because one, it gives you more opportunities. If you want to go to college and all you can do is throw the ball and you can't catch it, you can't block, and you say I'm a quarterback, but maybe you're not that quarterback that can make it to the next level or to the level you want. If you can play a bunch of different positions, it makes a difference. You can say, hey, look, if you got to use me quarterback, use me as a receiver, You can use me a defensive back. That now gives you 3 opportunities in a team to play. And so Neil plugged in there. I've got some names here. I didn't keep stats because I'm there watching my son play. But, some names I wanted to mention that I thought were really good that showed up was Dietrich D., who's a linebacker, running back. Dietrich is a hard-nosed kid, plays hard all the time. I think last year he broke his thumb or his finger, his hand, I don't remember, and got it all wrapped up, went out, got it wrapped up, and went right back in. So I think anytime you're looking at a player like that, the other side should be prepared because he comes loaded and ready to play. I mentioned Neil May did really good adopting to a new position for him, but I thought he shined there, and he should enjoy that, and that becomes a bigger part of a resume that I think for him is going to continue to go. Ethan McCarty is a running back. I mean, what can you say about Ethan McCarty? This kid, while he may not be 6'2" and a running back, 6'1", the kid can play. He's just flat out fast, and he's not afraid of contact. So he's coming at you. He's kind of Dietrich D, and we call Dietrich DJ. DJ and Ethan are both in that kind of shorter, stocky, but just the heart of a lion, could do fantastic. Graham Johnson. Graham's already committed to D1 school, but he's our kicker. Great kicker. He's able to put it through the uprights and get it there. And so he had a lot of work with a lot of touchdowns, and he had a field goal or 2. Chris Venardi. Chris is a DB wide receiver. Another kid that I think when you look at him, you think, well, he's not big, but another kid that can play, just flat ass play. And I really enjoy watching him. And he did some great things on the field. Another kid that, I didn't even realize till last week. I don't get to know all the kids on the team, but once we got the roster, I was looking as the game went on, Caleb Barkley. Caleb Barkley is a sophomore. Another kid that can play, catch the ball, move quick. He's really, really good. I also want to talk a little bit about Cody Kozubski. Now, Cody is a defensive back. He can be used as a wide receiver. He came in not knowing what's going on. His whole hand and all the way up to his elbow was wrapped. It almost looked casted. And so we were concerned as fans what's going on with Cody. And amazingly, he's basically a one-handed player. Ended up pulling off an interception and ran it for quite a few. I don't think he scored, but I could be wrong. But to see the kid come off the field with that cast on and having the ball in his arms during that time just says a lot about him. He's another kid that's got a lot of heart. You look at him and say, yeah, he's a smaller player, but I think what these kids are lacking in size, and this isn't just at Bradley, it's wherever, is that they bring a lot to the table just in heart and grit. Hollis Daniels, another kid that's going to play somewhere. He's a strong, stocky kid. I mean, he's wide, he's big. He's a fullback, a defensive line kid that can play. That's really shown his wear. And then, of course, and I'm sure I'm missing some kids. Zach Starr. Zach Starr came in as a tight end and defensive end. He's more of a baseball player from what I can tell. I think he's probably concerned about that. But he's done really well around the ball. He's a kid that can get in around the line, get to that quarterback, and he did a couple of times there. So I predicted, I went low. I think I picked it 28-14. I was leaning more towards, and I think we talked afterwards, 35-14 is where I was kind of wanting to go, but I didn't want to put it out there too much. I would have never expected 59-0. And again, I'm not saying that shows Bradley's where. I mean, Stagg's struggling. Stagg's a young team. They're struggling this year. So it says probably more about Stagg than it does Bradley. But I'm not taking away from Bradley. And I think, they weren't sloppy, huge mistakes by Stagg. It was just a Bradley team that seemed to really get out there and gel and put stuff together. Going back to quarterback Cage Williams, I think he rushed for 3 touchdowns, threw another touchdown. I'm waiting for his highlight clip to come out. That's why I always want stats. I want to be able to look at it. But That kid has, since he's taken over the quarterback job, has just done a really good job. And I know in the offseason he's been working really, really hard. So kudos to Cage, and really kudos to all those kids that are out there. Again, I'm a Bradley fan, but I think I'm a bigger Bradley player fan. And I'm sure, a lot of coaches and parents are out there would say the same thing about their team. But like I said, this is our show, and so I'm going to talk about my team. But I'll certainly have anybody on that wants to talk about their team, because I like hearing about these kids in this area because they're doing great things, and we want them to have the opportunity, if they so wish, to go to college, get an education, but also play the game they love. So, I think I'm 2-0 now, right? And picked the Andrew game right, got that right. I picked the Stagg game right. I did good with that. So I think it's one of those things where so far I wouldn't say what I'm doing is science. It's more out of love and favoring your guys, because I'm going to make another pick this week, and we'll talk a little about it. I know you've got some insight into this. We're going to do a preview of the BBCHS Lincoln Way West. So I think when the season started, we looked at our schedules and we ran into Bolingbrook. We should have won the Lincoln Way Central, right? So I think we should have lost one game, which would have been Bolingbrook, which I'm not saying is expected. They're just a tough team. They're a solid team up there. I think Lincoln Way West was a game that we let slip away. We faltered a little bit on the special teams and stuff, but we've seemed to fix that up. We still had that kind of quarterback shifting back and forth, not really figuring out where we need to be. We fixed that. So I think we could have probably won that game, even though, as you said, with the Iroquois West game, the separation in the score was more than actually what happened on the field, right? And it could have been a lot closer, and I think it could have went the other way. But it is what it is. Take your hats off to Lincoln Way Central. A little shout out to one of my guys there. He's like a son to me, Joe Keller. Love the kid. He's been around here forever. Is now living up there, going to Lincoln Way Central, and he's a commit to Carthage College. And I couldn't be happier for the kid. The only way I could be happier probably is if my son made a commitment to go to school there or somewhere else. So good to him. He's a great kid. And so shout out to him, and he played good ball that game. But let's get into the preview of BBCHS Lincoln Way, and let's talk a little bit about some of the things about Lincoln Way West. And certainly if you know anything about BBCHS, you can talk about it. I might correct or say I disagree with you because it's my team, but you do have some insight in Lincoln Way West.
Yeah, so they are, probably a top 7-8 team in their division right now, through those coaches rankings, and rightfully so, because they have Justin Harris, who he primarily plays cornerback, but he can also play running back. He has a lot of Division I interest at the moment. I guess the easiest way to put it is that he can be a shutdown corner. So whoever your best wide receiver is, he's going to guard. He's going to guard him the whole game, and he'll limit him to 0 catches for 0 yards because he's able to do so. He's able to, play back. He's able to press. And he's able to do all these things for this Lincoln Way West defense to where they don't have to worry about, the number one receiving target, like double covering them or, bracket covering them. They don't have to do that because they have Justin Harris to do that. So then the rest of the 10 guys on their defense can focus on stopping the run or, bracketing maybe the number 2 target. So then you have your number 1 target and number 2 target, eliminated in a sense from the game plan, which makes it a lot easier for them to stop the opposing offense. And on defense, I forget what his name is, but they have a senior running back who is very electric. He's very fast. He's a north-south runner. He hits the holes hard. He has quick acceleration. So if you're not able to, hold contain on the cutback lanes, he has the vision to see the cutback lane, plant his foot, and he's off to the races for a touchdown.
Yeah, we started talking about this earlier. We'd seen the beginning of the season. We really thought, we knew Bolingbrook would be a tough game. but we thought overall we could take the rest of these games. Now, as we go along, we're seeing Lincoln Way West really building up, and as you said in the coaches poll, and I think the coaches poll for Illinois is something new that they put together this year. I could be wrong, but I think that's something new they're doing. I think they've missed a couple of things. They had Andrew as a team to watch when we played them, then we beat them, and then they said the same week the team to watch. They may have just forgot to take it down. And again, nothing against Andrew, but we're nowhere on the screen for a lot of folks, and come in, and I thought we did really, really well against them, that they're still there. So I think the coaches poll's got a little bit of tweaking to do, but it's certainly nice to see, and it's nice to know that coaches are working together to try to figure out who's where and what they're doing. So we've seen that popping up with Lincoln Way West, that they're moving up that poll number. I think they're 9th or 7th, like you said, and 7A. And they just came off a win, I understand, from beating Homewood Flossmoor, which is typically a powerhouse. I think they're in 8A. And so I don't know, you have teams that go up and go down through stuff. They may have went down this year. I don't really know. I don't have enough information on them, so that, you may have a powerhouse that one year is just not a powerhouse. They don't have it. They've lost a good component of their folks through graduation and stuff. But, just to come off of a season where you're beating Lincoln Way West, or Lincoln Way West is beating Homewood Flossmoor, I think that says a lot. So, kudos to them. We're certainly hoping getting into that we can, hold their running back, and, maybe if nothing else, you can use that cornerback who guards our best receiver, maybe as a decoy, and have some other folks coming in that can catch the ball. And we have some other folks too that can catch the ball, that I think are really kind of sleepers at this point. And I think you've got to take that into factor. So hopefully, I'm sure the coaches at BB have got some plan right together on how to, work on that running back, and also be able to, succeed on offense without having to go to, their star cornerback. So, but, I'm going to have to go. Now, I know this may be against logic here, but I'm going to go BBCHS 21 and Lincoln Way 17. So I think it's going to be close. Now, again, this is kind of one of those things, I'm crossing my fingers, but I know we're going against a team, big team, and a good team. But, in fact, we went out after last Friday's game just to grab a bite to eat. A bunch of refs that came in, and I was talking to one of them. They were sitting down eating, and they were sitting next to us, and I asked them about it. He said, Lincoln Way West is a machine. So, so it tells me it's not just coming from you. It's not just coming from the coaches poll. There's a lot of eyes that are on these guys that tell they're a good team. But Bradley's going to put a couple cogs in their machine and slow them down this week and come away with a 21-17 win. And so anyone from Bradley, players and coaches, let me just say this. My record's on the line, okay? So I need you to win. I don't need any losses this year. So hopefully they'll do it. But, yeah, it's we're looking forward to it. Are you going to the game tonight?
Yeah, so I'm going to the Peotone Wilmington game tonight.
Now, I don't recall. Was that at Peotone or Wilmington?
It's at Peotone.
Peotone, 6 o'clock start?
Yep.
Yeah, these 6 o'clock starts are kind of weird for us, but that's good. At least we can get in early. It's not so cold. So it's going to be a little cool tonight. We're still trying to break through that summer weather. So make sure you dress warm tonight. I know I will. And I have to. I'm down, as with my health condition and my transplant I had to have in October that I'm blessed to receive. Part of that process, I'm down 100, and as of today, 116 pounds. So when you go from a big guy, you used to call me Big Daddy at work, to now I guess Skinny Mini, it gets a lot colder, a lot quicker. So you'll see me out there bundled up, and hopefully as snug as a bug in a rug, man. And hopefully you stay warm too. But we'll look forward to it as we're going along. And I think next week we're going to have a little surprise. I ordered, without my wife's knowledge, I did tell her later, a new camera. So she's like, you only got about 5 or 6 of them, which is true. And then we've got a special thing coming for me and you that we're waiting on our designer to finish up, and we'll unveil that next week. And I think people are going to like it. And if nobody likes it, me and you are going to like it. That's all that really matters. It's really just me and you talking. We don't really care. We're just going to talk and do what we got to do. So, yeah, we're going to do that next week. So, man, good luck to you, and hopefully you can come away with another correct win. Let me ask you a question, and I won't count this against you. Well, I don't know, but BBCHS Lincoln Way, what do you see? And you're not coming from a dad fan perspective. You're coming from a scout's perspective. What are you seeing?
Oh
boy, here we go. Hang on. I'm hanging on, man. I'm hanging on.
Gotta say, Lincoln Way will win 28-17.
Hang on. Honey, we're not talking to Jordan anymore. So, no, I get it, man. I get it. I wouldn't expect you to say anything different. I know that the stats are there. I'm just hoping the heart and the cohesiveness of Bradley pull it off. So I'm going to leave with a little inside joke. So for you folks watching, thanks for watching the Jake and Doug show, and we appreciate it. Right, Jordan? We'll tell you about hopefully anybody watching could care. We'll tell you about that next week. So I'll get this edited, man. We'll get it up, and we're good to go. And I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me as always.
Yep. All right, man. Take care.